for sure. I had a question. Just touched briefly on indigo children and crystal children, because I have an interest. I have a son who's diagnosed with ASD, that's Autism Spectrum Disorder, and there is a book that came out by Lee Carroll. It's Indigo Children. And I have to admit, I have not read all of this. We started reading it, and both my sons are in here. It's incredible. But the concept of it is that these children that are born between a certain time period are born, they're different. Their frequency is different, and they're born for the electronic age. That's why they are so different from us. And that's why their minds are racing all the time. And it's a great book, but I've also been told upon reflection that my son is a crystal child, and I don't know the difference. So I thought I'd let you kind of talk about that.
We don't know a whole lot about it, and I'm a scientist rather than a psychic, although I'm a metaphysical scientist as well as a physical scientist, because I try to overlap the two. I have a special interest in the savant phenomenon, which is very similar to crystal and indigo, where there are higher faculties that are outstanding. For example, Mozart was a very gifted child. We don't know, was he a crystal, was he an indigo, was he a savant? He certainly has a lot of the characteristics of a savant. A savant is one who has great superhuman ability and memory, usually, mostly memory, but has a lot of dysfunction in other areas of their life. It's as if all of their energies are bunched into a great faculty like art or music or dance, where they can copy and mimic and have a phenomenal memory. For example, the famous English boy who could recite pi to 25,500 decimal place, Daniel Tammet, that was his name. Yeah, I may have brought his book, his autobiography, but I would suggest read his Daniel Tammet on Google. Google Daniel Tammet, and you'll see that he has two books, both of which I have and have read, because I was hoping to see Daniel Tammet's an educated young man, quite functional, went to university. So he is one of the few savants who's able to describe his experience and how he channels each number of pi, 25,500 successive numbers in pi. It's got to be coming from somewhere. And he described how he'd be like walking in a valley, and he'd see a rock with a certain shape, and that shape would be the next number. And each number has a shape, a unique shape. So that shapes, to some extent, is the language of the superconscious, which brings up the whole topic of sacred geometry. Shapes and forms is the language part of the spiritual plane, which is why one of my favorite sacred geometry patterns is the famous labyrinth, the Chartres labyrinth, which I was 20 years ago. I was in Paris, coming on back from a holiday to Scotland, and I was told to stop over in Paris. And in Paris, I was told to get on a bus to Chartres. I'd never heard of Chartres, and when I got to Chartres, I discovered I was shown the Chartres labyrinth, and I was told that I had to get a copy of it, a photograph, and to scan it into my computer, put it on CorelDRAW, and then etch it onto all of my circuit boards. So when I make colloidal silver generators, which I do, I make colloidal silver generators which I sell around the world, including industrial silver generators for bottling and quantities. I put the energy through a Chartres labyrinth pattern before it goes into the water. So it's like a cosmic antenna. It's an example, here's an example of one of my calling business cards, where I have the labyrinth etched onto the card, just like on my printed circuit boards.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so sacred geometry is important. It seems to play an important part in the higher dimensions. And this was channeled historically in the Chartres labyrinth, in the cathedral in Chartres. The cathedral of Chartres was built around the late part of the 1100s, 1200 or so, and one person who had a great part to play in the design of it was the greatest scientist and physician of that time. It was a woman, Hildegard von Bingen, was one of the greatest scientists, physicians, herbalists throughout history, and she would get these concentric visions. She was also epileptic. She would often have epileptic seizures and had migraine, so she would often get these visions, and this was one of them, the Chartres Labyrinth. I may have a book by Hildegard. Anyway, Hildegard von Bingen. Around, she died in the late part of the 1170 or so, not before she had played a part in the design of the cathedral in Chartres. So, what about other forms of sacred geometry? Mandalas, for example, symbols that have that speak. You know about Japanese and Chinese symbols. That one symbol speaks a whole sentence, tells a whole story. That one symbol. Likewise, in sacred geometry, a mandala tells you a whole story, and it imprints itself like a key in our brain, in our mind, brain, spirit system. So that too can raise our vibrational frequency. That which we feed our eyes with also feeds our pineal, feeds our third eye.
I've seen this before. They at my church, they used to have something where they had the labyrinth on the floor, and they had a little ceremony they did.
Okay.
So,
what have we not covered?
wow, we've covered a lot here.
Oh yeah, pineal gland.
Yes.
I was looking down at my books. I have a special interest in the pineal gland, and this is a book, the Pineal Conference, a World Conference on Pineal Physiology. So it's a very rare book that I was able to get, because I'm a member of the New York Academy of Sciences, so this book came along with the membership, and it was a study of the pineal gland, and for some phenomena about the pineal gland responds to magnetic field stimulation, responds to electrical stimulation, responds to light stimulation, and there are crystals inside the pineal gland. There are crystals that were very tiny, micron-sized crystals that tune into what we think is terahertz frequencies. So the pineal could be like a radio receiver for terahertz. And here's an example of one of the crystals under the microscope. One of the elongated rectangular crystals in the pineal gland, which, like a quartz crystal, is resonating with terahertz frequencies. So you wonder, where is channeling? How does channeling information from the cosmos get into our brain and that we hear it and see it? Perhaps through the pineal, through these crystals that tune in. Be aware also that the pineal gland is the most important organ in the body, because it controls our immune system, controls the thymus.
Longevity.
Longevity, oh yeah, and it's the aging organ of aging. It releases melatonin, the most powerful antioxidant. It releases the most powerful psychedelic substance known to man. What is the most powerful psychedelic known to man? DMT, dimethyltryptamine, and this is synthesized and produced.
I was going to say that.
Yeah. I took the words right of your mouth. Yeah, dimethyltryptamine is produced by the pineal gland, and the pineal gland also has little muscles, microscopic muscular fibers, and it's in that book that can somehow compress and release a burst of melatonin or a burst of DMT. So it can give rise to a psychotic or a sudden spiritual experience, perhaps, triggering off or triggering us into a theta state, whereby we become more receptive to Akashic information. That's what I think.
So, are you creating some sort of device to work with this that will actually help get us there?
Yes. Funny you should ask. Yeah, I have. There is a technology that stimulates. It's called transcranial magnetic stimulation. That magnetic pulses go through any organ, but particularly in this case the brain, and particularly in the pineal. There's ample literature about how the pineal responds to magnetic pulses. So here we're using a coil over the top of the head, over different parts of the head, to stimulate with magnetic pulses that go right in. And a lot of work has been done at the Mayo Clinic, and there are, on my website I have a whole page associated with TMS, and you'll see videos not only of myself. It can give rise to a savant state of consciousness. So I sometimes treat myself because I want to be a savant.
You do?
Yeah, I want to be a savant. So I'll treat myself with my own TMS technology. Now, it's also reported to have some benefits with depression, tinnitus, and other conditions, migraine. So go onto my website under TMS, and you'll see not only my video, but videos from other scientists using similar technology at the Mayo Clinic and other places, usually in the US. So I invite you to find out more about that.
And Dr. John Stewart's website is, again, www.biophysica.ca or
.com.
.com, I'm sorry.
Biophysica.com.
Or radionics.com.
Okay, now let's talk about radionics, since you mentioned that. What is radionics? And I get a lot of calls almost every day about. So here's a book on radionics by one of the great radionic practitioners, Dr. Tansley from England, who died unfortunately. Many of these great therapists died young because they have picked up a lot of the negative vibrations from their patients, from their clients, one after the other, and they don't protect themselves adequately. So that happened with Dr. David Tansley, with Bach, of Bach Flower Remedies. Many other great practitioners have turned out to become very unhealthy because of what they're picking up, the infectiousness of what we call miasms. M-I-A-S-M. You read about it on my website. Miasms are that predisposition to disease and dysfunction and tragedy that pervade the higher dimensions, and that, like, unless we protect ourselves, we are vulnerable, like a virus. If you don't protect yourself, you don't wash your hands, you'll get a virus. We're susceptible to these viruses of the higher dimensions, and so radionics works on those through tapping the 0 point energy. And I'll refer you to some of the great scientific work of the great physicist Tiller. Is it Robert Tiller? Tiller. He's a physicist who has done great work on the power of intention, on physical objects, and on time, and another phenomenon called retroactive causation, where by intention you can change what happened in the past. Bizarrely as it seems, retroactive causation. I first learned about it by reading the book The Intention Experiment. The Intention Experiment by Lynn McTaggart. Yeah, that's a good book to read. The Intention Experiment by Lynn McTaggart. And she talks about the work of Tiller. You don't have to read Tiller because it's pretty heavy to read, but read Lynn McTaggart's synopsis of it, and about how the intention of the radionic practitioner is amplified and focused by the crystal or by the radionic device. So it's the power of intention amplified by that vehicle called the water. In the case of homeopathy, the vehicle is water, or 40% alcohol in water. That is the vehicle for the intentionality of the homeopathic practitioner. Or the massage therapist. You go for a massage or Reiki. So sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good. It's because how connected is the therapist with you and with their own higher self. A topic I want to bring up briefly, because I'll be giving a lecture on this next week, is the crop circles. I'm actually going to be showing as a video at the University of Toronto at a lecture I give every month. I'm going to be showing this video and then a discussion about crop circles. And there are many books on the subject, and at least 3 different DVDs. And people often have people who have never known about crop circles will skeptically dismiss them and say, oh, it was just the way the wind blew, or there's a bunch of people go out with planks and make these crop circles. So it's just not possible. These crop circles are thousands of them all over the world. Every country in the world virtually has had crop circles, and I can, for example, there the complexity of the crop circles is far beyond our normal human technology. Yeah, I like this one particularly because it's like the plus and minus electrical charge on iron filings. So these are no two crop circles are the same. The question is, are they trying to teach us, or is it a key to higher consciousness? I think that these are the new mandalas. These are the new keys to higher consciousness.
I appear to be allergic down here. Sorry. Well, crop circles, I know there used to be talk that that was maybe from aircraft or UFOs landing, but now I think we're looking at it's more something designed, as you said, it's more of a message. Yes? Or a bit of both?
Well, so far we're not able to decipher a real message. They're forms of art. Maybe they're just saying we're here, pay attention, because they're all very different and all maybe in one symbol there's a whole story that we yet have to decipher. Maybe some clients in regression with Dolores Cannon, or some of you listening and watching, you may be able, through your clients, you may be able to get the answer to some of these questions, because it cannot come from our little human minds with our own linear logical thinking. It's got to come from an akashic dimension, a higher dimension. That's where the truth resides, not in our linear logical thinking.
We talked about regression. Do you, in your practice, do you do regression, or do you know anyone who you would refer that does regression?
Yeah, I used to do regression, but I found that, well, I was told to move on and do more inventive work in radionic devices and energy medicine devices, such as working with crystals and light technology. So that's what I do. That's what I do now. But I do refer people who really I feel can benefit, and there are quite a few people in our area in Ontario, for example. In fact, one well-known therapist in Toronto. Is it okay to mention her name?
Absolutely.
She's in fact an author of one of the chapters, and I think it's Brian Weiss's. Her last name is Cannon, not Dolores. It's Georgina Cannon. So I often refer people to her school, and she has students all over. So there's always somebody somewhere around who can give you a regression therapy.
Cannon, C-A-N-N-O-N? C-A-N-N-O-N?
Yes. Same surname as Dolores Cannon, only it's Georgina Cannon, and she wrote a nice chapter in I think it's Brian Weiss's book. No, I have to look for. So that's what I recommend for past life and between life regression experiences. Remember that it may be that 1 or 2 sessions may be enough, and people have had immense benefit just by rectifying and correcting and resolving unresolved issues. But other people, you need to go for years. So if you're going to twice a week or every week for years, that's a lot of time and a lot of investment. So be prepared for that kind of commitment. And it's a commitment to yourself and to all of the universe, because you'll be in touch with all that is. Which brings up another question of God. We don't want to finish without discussing God. The most difficult topic of all. And this is covered too in some of the regression work. What is God? Is there a God who resides in some spot or area or locality? And it seems not. No, God is everywhere. God is all that is. So we are all part of that. That we are all little pieces of the jigsaw puzzle. As the totality of all existence, of all universes, not just our little universe, but all universes in every dimension. That's all there is. Now, even the higher beings, the higher angelic beings that come through in regression, even they don't know. They're not in touch. They cannot handle the higher frequencies of these more rarefied levels. You know, they can operate at their levels as we operate in our levels. So we each to his own level. Do what you can at your level, and don't try and work at levels beyond you where you can get burned out or suffer. Work where you're safe. Work where you're going to get good results and get feedback on your results. Take action and observe your action and try to interact with others, which is, we now have friend for life. Before us, every stranger is a friend you haven't met yet. So have that attitude about everyone. Everyone is a spiritual being. Everyone you meet could have been your brother in a past life. Mm-hmm. And another, the legacy of this planet we're leaving to ourselves in our next lifetime. We'll come back and we'll have to face the mess that we've left here today.
Absolutely. That's karma. What goes around comes around. How are we doing for time?
We have about 10 to 10. Well, there's no rush. Any questions? Right.
Any questions out there?
How about orbs? You all know about orbs. Orbs are those spherical
ghosts.
Those spherical entities that we capture on a flash camera. Some people have had infrared video, and they move quite fast. So they're quite large, and they have a granular, concentric appearance, anatomy inside them.
I've got a couple of things that are coming through online fast and furiously. One person, the watcher, says, I've seen an orb. It was amber in color.
Yeah, they come in different colors, just like our soul. When regression clients go to the higher level, different souls have different colors.
Is that the aura?
No, it's the inherent radiation that they're projecting, which maybe is depicting their frequency. Everybody's at different frequency, even in all these dimensions. Yes, I was looking for my orb.
Another thing that came up was that I asked to see it and it appeared.
That's right. Well,
there's another question that's up here. I'm not sure. Let me see if I can get it back here. Talk about the Pleiadians and the Nordics. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the Pleiadians. Those are things that can only come through your own regression work. I haven't studied that enough. It's only in the last year that I discovered Dolores Cannon. I wish somebody would go through all of that regression literature and put it into a compendium, a workbook with an index. Dolores Cannon, there's no index at the back. If you ask me about karma, I don't know where to look in the book because there's no index.
Maybe that's your next project.
Well, somebody, we could work and form a group to bring all that great knowledge together and have it indexed so that we could. I mentioned, I just found my Hildegard von Bingen book, who's the one who channeled the Chartres Labyrinth. So there's Hildegard von Bingen. She was also a musician. She composed. She was downloading and channeling music too. So, and also the Orb book. Funnily enough, orbs information about it came through an email from the Prophets Conference, and I thought, well, and I got a funny message saying, look into orbs, click on and go into this. So I bought the book through Amazon.com, and within a few days of buying this book and reading it, I got my first orb in a photograph. It's a huge orb right here next to my head. So I often get orbs now, and as someone was saying, when you call for them, they will come, and they often come in great numbers. In fact, there are probably orbs all around, spiritual entities that we cannot see, but yet they are there to help us and support us. So that's probably equivalent to angelic or angels there to help us, but yet they must not interfere. They have to follow that divine prerogative, non-interference, otherwise they incur karma.
See, that's why I always say to my clients, they're here to guide us, but they're not here to do the work for us. We have to do it for ourselves. We can listen to their messages. They're going to love us unconditionally, but they're here for support and they're here to help. But it's ultimately up to us to make that path on our divine journey.
Yeah, and it's been pointed out that even if humans here destroy our planet, they cannot interfere. It'll happen if we make it happen. And it's heading in that direction because the planet is polluted, the oceans are polluted. Look at all the sensitive animals in the ocean are all getting cancer and anomalies. The birds are falling out of the sky. The bees are dying out, so there's no pollination. The air is polluted. Electromagnetic fields are everywhere. Chemicals are. So we're poisoning our own fishbowl.
And then people turn around and say, you know, why is God doing this to us? And he's not, or it's not. I mean, we are doing this to ourselves.
Got a question online from Starsology. How many past lives does he regress at one time? So that would be.
How far back can you go?
In one regression session, people do jump past life to past life. Yeah, and they can go back to the beginning of. Like the beginning of time, before the Big Bang of our universe, before there was any physicality. They can regress back to being just an energy form, or go into the future. Future lifetimes are also open.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but they're not cast in stone. It's just an avenue of possibilities out of the landscape. That's why I often say, become aware of the landscape of probabilities that lies in front of us, because we have control of
We're cultivating it,
but we are also navigating through the peaks and valleys of the probability landscape. We don't want to fall into the pit holes, and we don't want to go too high, because you too high you fall, but you want plateaus of reasonable success and joy and peace and love. I hope, does that answer your question?
We love Starsology, don't we? Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you is the answer that comes back.
Here's one more book I came across. If some of you are really into heavy reading, this is a heavy book to read. It's got a lot of science, it's a takeoff from Vibrational Medicine by Gerber.
Here, yeah. I'll hold.
Oh yeah, this is another great book. It's much older, but it's a good introduction. Start with Vibrational Medicine by Dr. Gerber, Dr. Richard Gerber. You'll find it in Amazon, and there are newer versions of this. And this book here is Life Force. It's a scientific basis behind a lot of subtle energy work.
Now, I don't know if our listeners are aware of this, but after every show I have a blog. So we do a little synopsis of each show that we've done on Ask Your Angels. It is www.askyourangeltalkshow.blogspot.com. Please join. I know this is going to be a lot to ask, but what I'm wondering is if we can maybe get a list from you of all these books that you've shown us tonight, and what I can do is post it on the blog, and that way everyone will have access. For those who came in late and maybe didn't know to have a pen handy, or
well, if any of you live in the West Toronto area, you could meet with me and go through all of. I don't have the time to type out all the names and authors, but I'd be happy to, if somebody came and volunteered to do that. We could put it on I could email it to you.
Okay, that sounds great. This book is heavy. I'm going to pass it back. So I think we've covered a lot tonight. Any questions for Dr. John Stewart before we go? No? Just want to tell you again, his website's www.biophysica.com. and radionics.com. Yes?
Yeah, Radionics is spelled RAYDIONICS.com.
Sorry.
Yeah. Very good. Well, thank you all for watching and listening, and hopefully we'll get some feedback and do this more often.
That would be great. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. Again, please follow us on Twitter, www.twitter.com/Angel Talk Show, and please let me know what subjects are you interested in spiritually, and I will see who I can get on the show for you. Next week's show, again, is 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I've got something in the works, but nothing firm yet. But I will post that on Blog TV to let you know what's coming up, as well as Twitter, and follow us on Facebook. We're on Facebook. Ask Your Angels Talk Show. Have a great night. Thanks for joining us again.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.